This is Ashley Canetti from the Ben and Ashley I Almost Famous podcast. You could have lost 10 pounds already if you already started 1 month ago. So are you ready to start today? Find out if weight loss meds are right for you in just 3 minutes at tryfh.com. Tryfh.com.
Tryfh.com.
Results vary based on start weight and adherence to diet, exercise, and program goals. Data based on independent studies sponsored by Future Health. Future Health is not a healthcare services provider. Meds are prescribed at provider's discretion.
AI is rewriting the business playbook with productivity boosts and faster decision-making coming to every industry. If you're not thinking about AI, you can bet your competition is. This is not where you want to drop the ball. But AI requires a lot of compute power. And with most cloud platforms, the cost for your AI workloads can spiral. That is, unless you're running on OCI, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. This was the cloud built for AI. A blazing fast enterprise-grade platform for your infrastructure, database, apps, and all your AI workloads. OCI costs 50% less than other major hyperscalers for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Thousands of businesses have already scored with OCI, including Vodafone, Thomson Reuters, and Suno AI. Now the ball's in your court.
Right now, Oracle can cut your current cloud bill in half if you move to OCI. Minimum financial commitment and other terms apply. Offer ends March 31st. See if your company qualifies for this special offer at oracle.com/strategic. That's oracle.com/strategic.
My dad works in B2B marketing, but I never really knew what that meant. Then one day my dad came by my school for career day and told everyone in my class he was a big ROAS man. Then he just kept saying things like, the bigger the ROAS, the better, over and over. My friends still laugh at me to this day. I think it means calculating a return on ad spend. One thing's for sure, I'll be known as the ROAS man's kid for the rest of my days. Why couldn't you just be a fireman or a lawyer? Why? You ruined my life, Dad.
Not everyone gets B2B, but LinkedIn has the people who do. And with ads on LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people based on job title, industry, likelihood to buy, and more. Start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/customer to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/customer. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Zoe, and you're listening to Climbing in Heels for your weekly dose of glamour, inspiration, and fun. I'm joined today by the wonderful and incredibly passionate entrepreneur and founder of Poppi, Allison Ellsworth. Allison has built the most fantastic and successful brand that's rooted in a product that she created truly out of necessity. She discovered the health benefits of apple cider vinegar and created a healthier soda that's become the fastest growing beverage of all time. That is insane. While simultaneously giving birth and raising 3 young boys. I am so incredibly inspired by Allison's vision. So let's jump right in. You are going to love this episode. I'm so excited to have you on. You know, I drink Poppi. My team drinks Poppi. We all, like, my refrigerator is filled with Poppi. But I also want to say how cool it is for me when I like a brand, when I see like kind of all these different people coming in from the wild holding the brand, which I imagine is the greatest thing for you. So I want to talk about this because I want to dive back to the beginning for a second. So you grew up in Texas, born and raised.
So born in Colorado, lived there for like a year, but I don't claim that. I'm a Texas girly through and through. I grew up here, lived here, forced my husband to move back here. I'm obsessed with Texas. And
You are? I love that.
like, I love Texas.
I love that. I love that you love Texas. Having so many people in my life from Texas, there is this overarching common thread of friendliness. And first of all, everybody's tall. So I do want to really,
I am tall. Yes.
literally every friend I've ever had from Texas is incredibly tall, except for one.
I
The
love
guys are gigantic. They are actually gigantic. And the women are also very, very tall. But there's this happiness about Texans. The people I've met from Texas are driven. They're happy. They love Texas.
Love it. No, I've always said I started the company in Texas, and I always feel like if I wouldn't have, I don't know if we'd be so successful. I was like, Texans love Texas brands. They
Yeah.
like everything about it, but also other people like Texas brands.
Yes.
And usually don't get a lot of better for you products, right? Usually you're like New York, LA. And so it's really exciting to have like a better for you product coming out of the South as well.
Yes.
So I love that about it.
I want to talk about that. I want to understand a little bit why you created Poppi, because you started in oil, which is funny because I was saying earlier to my producer, it's funny because when you're in LA, you're like, oh, are you in the industry? And it's very clear what industry that is when you're in LA. When you're in New York, it's like, are you in the industry, meaning fashion or art or theater, or finance. And then I feel like Texas, it's like, okay, you're in the industry and that's oil, right? So how do you go and why do you go from working in the oil industry to saying, I'm going to start a wellness sparkling soda?
It's interesting because I kind of come from a family of entrepreneurs. So my sister and my dad are both in the oil and gas industry, and I graduated, and I've never been from college. I've never been a person to like want to go work in like a cubicle or for another person.
Same.
And there's a lot of financial freedom and just like, I don't know, career freedom when you work in oil and gas and you're on the road and you're basically have no boss, right? So you have to be very much a self-starter. And so I did that, but I was never like, I was good at it. I was really good at it, but I wasn't like passionate about it. And while I was on the road, I'm sure you've spent many a year where you're like traveling and you're on the road. And it's like what I call is like this road warrior. Like I got like road warrior belly, like where your tummy hurts, you're tired and your skin's off and you're dehydrated. And it's like all of the above. And it was just really wearing on me, so much so that I started like going to the doctors and being like, what's going on? And really it came down to my diet. Like at the end of the day, this was like almost 10, 12 years ago, before the gluten-free phase, you know, where people are like, oh, what you put in your body can actually, you know, affect the way that you feel. And I discovered apple cider vinegar. I started working out and reading ingredients and nutrition panels. And I just became really passionate about just better for you lifestyle. And I noticed just there was no like better for you soda. I grew up drinking soda. It was just part of my household. It's like this nostalgic feeling that like you have it with movies, you have it with, you know, every get together, and there was just nothing out there. So once I kind of discovered that, I just went to my kitchen. I love cooking, and I kind of just created the first version, and it was a total accident, not an entrepreneurial journey at all. And I shared it with my husband and with other people, and they were like, this is really good. You should do something about it. My dad was like, you should sell your hooch. And I was like, I don't know. Okay, sure. But I was just so excited to share it with others rather than like to monetize it. And I kind of feel like some of the most beautiful things come from like passion and emotion versus like a business plan and like, I'm going to do this to get rich, like type of situation.
That's so interesting because I do know what you mean, because the first probably 15 years of my career, I was like on a plane, I wasn't sleeping. I mean, you're eating on set, like, you know, we had there's something on set called craft services, which I'm sure you know, and you just graze and you eat like things and you just feel so sick every day. And then when you fly and you just feel constantly out of sorts, really. And I don't think people recognize until it's too late very often the impact of travel on our bodies. And work travel specifically because it's not elective most of the time. And I think as we got older, our bodies are like, just kidding. That's not going to work for you anymore. Like you got to change something. And so being in Texas, which is not the world of wellness, and, you know, I always think of it as the steak and potatoes and like milk and all the things. Cause I'm sort of like, maybe this is why everyone's tall. Like, like they actually do drink the 8 glasses of milk you're supposed to have or whatever it is that, you know, my poor 13-year-old son is so vertically challenged right now. And every day he wakes up, he's like, should I start drinking milk, Mom? Like maybe I'm going to go.
It's okay. Men are late bloomers. My husband
in every way.
He grew. No, I mean, I think like being in Texas, yeah, definitely. I didn't grow up with the emphasis on like health or wellness. To your point, yeah, steak, potatoes. It was like a normal once a burger, tacos, Tex-Mex, all of those things. So it was like one of those moments where I felt like we had discovered something, me and my husband, on doing this. And I was like, I just want to share it with people. So I wanted to also start a family at the time. We bought a house in Dallas. We were kind of putting our roots down, and no kidding you, like we bought the house in December, January got pregnant, like so quick.
Doesn't it just work like that?
We were like, it was not part of the plan, but we embraced it. And I was like, I can't go back on the road. So I want to just start selling this to our local farmers market, which is what I think a lot of better for you products start off testing. And within 3 weeks, we had Whole Foods come by our booth because they're a Texas company. And she's like, you guys should be in Whole Foods. And it was the first moment I was like, oh, I have a business here. And I don't, that second, that conversation, I still remember her name, Kelly Landrew. She changed my life. And I looked at my husband, I said, we're putting our life savings into this. We're doing. He's like, what are you talking about? We just bought a house. You're 3 months pregnant. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, we're doing this. Like I was so determined from that moment.
And how old were you then at that point?
So that was like 6 years ago. So I was 29, 30 at that point. And, just started really going down that. We opened our own manufacturing facility, put our life savings in, and just kind of went all in and got to the point where we needed funding. So of course, the next step in the American dream is Shark Tank, and went on Shark Tank. At that point, it'd been like
Can you believe having got on Shark Tank? I mean, that's not easy.
It's not. And what I didn't realize is the show like reaches out to people. We went and stood in line and did the open casting call with hundreds of other people. I'd had my first, I was pregnant with my second. I was like, let's just keep, I was like, I refused to just pick one or the other. Like that's like my motto in life. I do too much, like all the time. So I was pregnant with my second when we went on to Shark Tank, and I was 9 months pregnant on Shark Tank, had the baby 10 days later. So
stop it.
No, it's been wild. Yeah.
Girl, what sign are you? Are you Virgo?
I'm a Capricorn. I'm a pretty hardcore Capricorn. Yeah.
Wow. I'm so, but you read very Virgo, by the way, but Virgos and Caps. My baby son is a Cap. Similar to you, I got pregnant, wasn't trying, was launching my clothing collection, and launched it literally I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks before I had my first son. And I remember standing there with the models and styling the looks for the collection, and Women's Wear Daily taking a picture of me. I had this tummy. I was wearing thigh-high boots. I was wearing like all the things. And I'm like, nope, nothing's going to change. Nope, nothing's going to change. Nope, I got this. I'm going to do this. But like, I want to talk about how that was for you going on Shark Tank and doing this whole thing and being pregnant, having a child, and obviously being young. I had my kids late, right? I had already built my career. So I was able to sort of say, okay, my team's going to come to the house to work today, or I'm going to bring my son with me on this trip or whatever. I was able, I think, to dictate a little bit more of how that went for me, but it was still incredibly challenging. So I want to know, as you were launching this dream that you didn't even know was going to happen.
Right.
And I always say there's no blueprint for this, right? You can't, I'm sure people ask you all the time, like, how did you do this? And you're like, honestly, my passion, I loved it. It was, right?
Yeah. And a lot of sleepless nights, lots of tears, lots of ups, lots of downs, lots of fear, lots of, the list goes on. But I think
entrepreneurship, by the way.
Yeah. And I think, look, we left an insanely successful career to go into this. And I always say, like, unless you really are passionate about it, like, you're not going to leave that security. And then just being a mom was also just a really big goal in my life. My husband grew up Mormon, like family's just like a really big piece. He's like one of 6. I'm like one of 4. We just like always wanted that from like a young age. And I was just like, why do I have to choose? Like, that's just how I am. If you tell me no, I'm like, oh, I'm talking to the wrong person. And I just feel like it was just, I wanted both and I didn't have to choose. But was it way harder? Oh my gosh, yes. Like it got to the point where he had to get like a second job. We were working bottling during the week. I would work with the baby strapped to me. I did deliveries with them strapped to me. Like we could not afford a babysitter. Like my mom would come down on the weekends when she could to help. Got to the point where, we're just like, this is like, can we do this? The low lows, the high highs type of situation. But just looking back on it, I wouldn't change any of it. I remember with my first being on the bottling line, going into labor, was back on with the baby strapped to me 2 weeks later because we like needed to keep going. And I don't know, it didn't seem hard at the time. Looking back, like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could do that again.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we could say that that was adrenaline. You could say that that was like excitement and determination. You could say that, when you tell your kids this story, they're going to be so proud of you. Is your husband your partner?
Yes. So yeah, and he runs like at Poppi, I run like all of our creative brand vision, and he runs like our innovation and our supply chain. So we're very opposites as well. And he, like, I couldn't do it without him. He couldn't do it without me, but he does allow me to be crazy, which I love. Because I think at Poppi, like the level of quickness that we work through and like we move at the speed of culture, like we have to be like really nimble, crazy, and willing to take risks. But it's funny because I had my first 2 pregnancies and like children while growing the business. And then I waited 4 years and Poppi was like humming along great. And then I had a third, and that was such a different experience.
Yeah. I was going to ask you.
He was on flights with me 20 times before he was 6 months old, and like in New York running around doing interviews while breastfeeding on the subway, like all of those things. So I think I got to experience both. And, I look back and it built grit to get me to continue to get where I am. And now I'm like, maybe I need one more. Good things happen at Poppi when I get pregnant.
I'm going to predict you are likely having a 4th. I mean, even if you didn't say that just now, I'm going to think that you are.
I love chaos. So
well, clearly, but I think it's interesting. I want to talk about the not making a choice, because I think that is the hardest decision that women have to face if you want to have a business. I don't want to say it's totally different, but I want to say there are differences between building a business of your own versus working for an established business where you have job security, you have hopefully, you have your health benefits and you have all these things. When you're starting a business ground up, that is a real choice for women to say, I'm going to have kids later. Let me build this and then I'm going to have kids. Or I want to have my kids, be a mom, and then I'm going to start my business after I have my kids and they're like all in school and whatever. I have many entrepreneur friends, many successful, many have closed businesses, many have grown and sold and all the things. And we talk about a lot at our dinners and our events, like how hard that is to do simultaneously. And I don't want to skim over it because, to your point, I think being an entrepreneur in general, there is not a woman I've had on this pod who would tell you it is not the fucking hardest, most rewarding, most painful, most exhausting, most exhilarating, all the things. You want to quit, you want to throw it in, you have to keep it going, and it's all the things. Being a mother is also like that, right? Because I think there's so much guilt in that motherhood of, I don't want to miss anything. But I think what's evident is your determination to succeed. And I think for me, what really stands out is doing this in Texas, where it isn't the expected, the saturated. I mean, here in LA, I'm pretty sure there's a wellness brand launched every hour in different categories. But there is a question I wanted to ask you that I noticed, and I'm not positive. Are you the CEO or no?
I'm not, nor would I ever want to be. I think it's so funny when people start their businesses, and this is something that I speak on quite a bit. And just, I think a lot of people start your business and you want to own it all, right? You want to, your decisions, that letting go of allowing people that actually know better than you is one of the hardest things you will ever go through in your career. So started the company with me and my husband. You know, I ran all of our marketing, like all of this stuff. And about a year in, like Poppi, just for context, is the fastest growing beverage in the history of beverage. We're 4 years old. We are the fastest growing beverage in the nation. We're the #1 soda on Amazon. We're in 1 in 10 households. It's just been absolutely crazy. And when you have that kind of explosive growth, I've never done this before. Now, my intuition has gotten us so far, but we got to the point where we were like, hey, we have to bring someone in. And we actually went to our board and we were like, we need to bring in a CEO. It was really hard. I like cried. We were like going through this, like, how could we go through this? Once we went through it and got it, we found the right person. We were part of that decision. That's always something I always try to say to other entrepreneurs. Be part of the decision. Don't allow it to happen to you and get to a point where it's like, so you're removed and it's like this dramatic. No, it's okay. It's growth. I'm learning from our CEO, right? And I realized being a CEO, it's a lot of people management. It's a lot of process. It's a lot of P&L budgeting. There's so many things that I'm like, oh, wow, I don't want to do any of that. Like I do run a team. I run our creative team. We have like an internal agency, which I adore my creatives. Like, I'm not saying that, but it's like, we have over 200 employees. And then a year after that, I was running the marketing and I was like, we're about to buy a Super Bowl ad. Like, we are running TV. Like, I've never bought a Super Bowl ad. Like, have you? It's like, you know, and so we went to, once again, I said, I want to bring in a traditional CMO. And, you know, that was one of the hardest years of my life, and did coaching and worked through that. But I think people hold on to the word CEO, you know, and it's like this thing where it's like, as an entrepreneur, a founder is a really powerful title. My title is Chief Brand Officer and a run brand, but I wish more people talked about that.
This is Ashley Iconetti from the Ben and Ashley I Almost Famous podcast. You could have lost 10 pounds already if you already started 1 month ago. So are you ready to start today? Find out if weight loss meds are right for you in just 3 minutes at tryfh.com. 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 Results vary based on start weight and adherence to diet, exercise, and program goals. Data based on independent studies sponsored by Future Health. Future Health is not a healthcare services provider. Meds are prescribed at provider's discretion.
This is what you do when you have high standards and fancy all the fancy things, like an iconic Dior saddlebag or that diamond tennis bracelet. You go to eBay. There you'll find new loves that will never disappoint, expertly authenticated and everything. Whether it's that vintage pearl necklace or brand new ruby earrings, a Prada crossbody bag to be besties with your other handbags, even an eternally classic watch like that Rolex Oyster or that Cartier Tank. You know the one. And when you find it, eBay has their experts' eyes to make sure you're getting the real deal. That way you can be confident that the designer finds you came for, the luxury wardrobe you've always wanted, it's all real. In fact, it's verified authentic. So bring your high standards and never limit what you can find. Yeah, eBay, the place for new, pre-loved, vintage, and rare fashion. eBay, things people love.
My dad works in B2B marketing, but I never really knew what that meant. Then one day my dad came by my school for career day and told everyone in my class he was a big ROAS man. Then he just kept saying things like, the bigger the ROAS, the better, over and over. My friends still laugh at me to this day. I think it means calculating a return on ad spend. One thing's for sure. I'll be known as the ROAS man's kid for the rest of my days. Why couldn't you just be a fireman or a lawyer? Why? You ruined my life, Dad.
Not everyone gets B2B, but LinkedIn has the people who do. And with ads on LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people based on job title, industry, likelihood to buy, and more. Start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/customer to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/customer. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Bring spring to your door with Target Circle 360. Get all you need for Easter hosting, spring get-togethers, and more with unlimited same-day delivery through Target Circle 360. From Easter basket goodies to fresh florals, getting everything the same day is easy. Open the Target app and bring the magic of the season to your door with unlimited same-day delivery through Target Circle 360. Visit target.com/circle or the Target app for more details. Subscription required. Same-day delivery is subject to terms. Applies to orders over $35.
You know,
that's why I want to talk about it, because I found that really interesting, because I can't even count how many badass women that I have in my life. And I'm going to say that most of them are CEO, but what I would say to that is over the last year, many have stepped down as CEO. Many are dying to not be the CEO. And it's releasing that control and that title. And a very successful friend of mine who has started 5 companies successfully, all of them, literally this summer was like, I, for the first time in 15 years, don't have a CEO title. And we were like, I'm like, how does it feel? She's like, weird, peaceful.
Yeah.
Like, I can sleep. And so I think, to your point, it's about being involved. And I think the key to being a successful entrepreneur is to recognize your strengths, recognize your challenges, and then hire the best person around you to fill those spots, right?
I have this beautiful, I think like one of my strengths as a leader or just in life is I have this ability to get people to believe they can do anything.
Through a gift, by the way.
Through brainstorming. Some of our most magnificent ideas have come from like junior people and me just like, tell me a little bit more about that, or push the whys, or why. They'll come up with an idea. I'm like, why can't we do it? I'm like, why can't we do it? Like, let's think about that, right? And I do think that's one of my strengths, to get us to think differently. We move really quick. And just like, for example, last year we did a Super Bowl ad. We bought that Super Bowl the Wednesday before the Sunday of Super Bowl. Like, wow. That's crazy we can have and be, but we'll plan our calendars. We'll get like 80% of it like super in stone, but you can't be culturally relevant if you're planning like what you're doing in 2026. I don't know what's going to be cool in 26. So this ability to move quick is like such a gift. And
I agree.
The team has seen that, and they've found ways to support me in that. Right. And like that, my strength isn't going out and building the most amazing retail program or media program or, sales team. Right.
Totally.
So, no, I love that. I love that you asked that question, because like, no, I'm not CEO, and nor do I want to be.
But I love how proud you are to not want to be, because that's another thing I really try to teach people is like, not everyone has to be, not everyone wants to be, and not everyone should be. And I think that's the thing, that what you're saying is so important for young people to understand, that it's absolutely okay to not want that role, right? Yeah. I mean, 100%. And I love that you said that. Honestly.
Like, I love our CEO. We totally stole him basically from another company he'd been at from 14 years. He'd worked his way up from like HR all the way to CEO, been at every position. We're great. I'm great friends with his wife. So it's like, it can be a beautiful relationship as well. I think
should
people,
be.
Look at it as a downside. So no, I love that. And it allows, back to like just being a mother throughout all of this. It's funny, like when you were saying that stuff earlier, what came to mind is the different challenges that were when we were starting are so different now. Now I'm gone a lot, and I don't get to be with my kids, and my husband's down more, at home more. And just recently I'm like, wow, I'm missing a lot. And I'm kind of having to step back and be like, I maybe should say no more, reprioritize, stay home. And like, that's a decision that I've been like, never thought I would have to think through, but I'm like, whoa, I'm missing.
How old are they, the boys?
2, 6, and 8.
So that's perfect, because you can still really confidently make those choices and not miss a thing.
Yeah.
So, but think about that really, because I only say that because you don't get it back, but you don't necessarily have to make the choice. You can do both. Because you are who you are in this company, you can do both.
Yeah.
And I think they're at ages where you can bring them with you. So you do get to do both, because that's what I was doing. Because I was, to your point, I wouldn't make the choice. And so when they were little, I would just take them. And then in between everything, I got the hugs and I got the meals and I got the bedtime. And then if I had to go to an event, you go when they go to sleep, and there's that. And that's also the gift. I want to talk to you about a couple of things. I want to talk to you about naming it Poppi, because it was called the mother beverage.
Uh-huh.
Okay, why? Tell me.
Okay, so when I first started it, it's like apple cider vinegar was kind of like the key, and like you had the mother of vinegar, and it was like we were almost this. What I always used to liken us to is like the sister to kombucha, right? It was just more farmers markety, health focused. But when we rebranded and realized we were soda for the next generation, modern soda, what kept coming up over and over again is like soda pop. And so we named it Poppi off of soda pop. And I just love it because it just, even when you just say it, makes you happy. The colors are happy. It screams pop. It screams soda. So it just made a lot of sense to change the name. And I'm so glad we went from bottles to cans. And then we launched Poppi. So like all the Shark Tank and all the mother stuff was previous. But then we launched Poppi March 3rd, 2020, the first week of COVID, which was like absolutely crazy. But I love it because I think.
So hold on. Wait, let me backtrack. So you went on Shark Tank. You were due in 10 days. You had a toddler or baby.
Yes.
And you went on Shark Tank. You do the whole pitch. At the time you went on Shark Tank, was it called the mother beverage or was it called Poppi? It was called the mother beverage. Yeah. Okay, so what happened on Shark Tank and how nervous were you in that moment?
So I actually wasn't that nervous.
Good.
Because I was like, if you get too nervous, you're going to go into labor.
Yeah. I was going to say, can you imagine?
And I was so pregnant backstage, just being like, you have to stay so calm. On the other hand, I swear, because I was that way, I look over, my husband's like pouring sweat. He's seeing, he can't, like, there's these like shots of him where it's like very close up and he will never live those down. But no, we had the baby. So we get the deal. We have the baby 10 days later. And then it usually takes like 4 or so months for the episode to air. And honestly, if you get a deal, it's not even guaranteed that it airs. At the end of the day, it's a TV show. It has to make good.
Right, of course.
We did, spoiler alert, we did get a deal. Closed the deal the Friday before the episode aired. So
what did they offer you?
We did $400,000, I think, for 20% of the company.
Okay. And which shark?
So his name was Rohan Oza, and he was more in the beverage world, which was amazing.
Got it.
And I love guest sharks because they don't have a lot of deals. So I think he's done 1 or 2 Shark Tank deals, and it's nice because we get his time and his team. And I met an amazing person, his right-hand person. We just like from that moment decided to rebrand, change the name, and then decided, the month of COVID to launch it. But
so, okay, I want to talk about that. So COVID, did you have a nervous breakdown?
No, we'd flown out to California though, like to set up for Expo West, like a big event the first week. And then they canceled the event. I remember like flying out, they had like maybe 3 to 10 cases and we were flying home, they had thousands. And we were so devastated. It was like our coming out party basically, but it was a blessing in disguise. I wouldn't say like COVID was, but just it forced us to really think differently as a business fundamentally from the beginning, because everything that traditionally people would do when launching a company was off the table from day one. We had to just try new stuff. And really what it was is we were like one of the first brands to get on TikTok. I have over 2 billion views on TikTok. A third of the platform has seen my face 7 times. I always say it's so fun. I am 37-year-old mom of 3 and Gen Z like loves me.
It's so great. That, by the way, that is no easy feat.
It's not. But I just think we jumped on. It was the wild, wild west. We digitally connected. We went all in on Amazon. And we're just a digital first brand, and it's just stayed in our DNA since we've like just grown. And then now we're starting to do in real life stuff and have had some amazing pop-ups this year, but we got scrappy at the beginning.
I love it. I'm so impressed with it. I really am. I mean, how do you feel now about influencer culture? Because obviously the pendulum is swinging all over the place at this point. And I think obviously, given that you are digital first and you did and do continue to have insane success on TikTok and everything. What are your thoughts on influencer, I guess, marketing at this point, branding? How do you think the impact has shifted? And do you consider your face the face of the brand, or do you use a lot of outside talent, and will you continue to do that?
Yeah. So when we first launched, before we ever did a paid ad, before we ever used a PR agency or anything traditional marketing, right? In real life, sampling, nothing. We can do anything. So we worked with influencers. And at the time, I didn't realize that I was building myself as face of the company, but it was free for me to get online and post. Of
course.
Right?
Right.
And it just, I did it with no makeup on. I had my kids running around in the background. Like I was just posting it. I was desperate for everyone to learn about Poppi, and it just organically, I became the face. And then we've always worked with creators, and I'm obsessed with the creator, just like everything that they do and the strength, and like they're entrepreneurs themselves at the end of the day, right? Like the amount of
the good ones. Yeah.
It's absolutely wild. Yes. There's some good ones and there's not some good ones, but we've also worked with celebrities, and what we're seeing is it's just such a different level to work with a celebrity as a creator. Creators get it, where it's like, we need stories, we need posts, we need some story, and they're so much more willing because it's like they don't have
the job
themselves. Whereas if you work with a celebrity, it's not as authentic as it used to be. You have to find like a real reason why you want to work with it. So we just launched like a partnership with Post Malone. And why I liked it is he went on a couple of podcasts saying he had given up big soda. And I was close friends with his manager, and I texted him. I was like, oh my God. And he's like, I know, because I gave him Poppi. Like he stopped and he lost like 30 pounds. There was like this whole thing and complex, like all these people. I was like, okay, that's authentic, right?
Right.
That's a good reason. Not, I want to put so-and-so.
Sure.
Like you don't have to. Really
it's almost like you went in the front door instead of the back.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. And so like for me, the one thing though, as a brand, the creator economy is very expensive.
Yeah.
And I don't know at what point smaller brands can sustain it.
They can't.
It's really tricky, because when we were first starting out, it was kind of on the rise of it, and you could get people for very affordable. Whereas people, when we started out, were 5,000. Now they're like 50,000, 100,000, 150,000 for a social post. And so I don't know, something I think eventually has to give. And I don't know what that is.
What'll end up giving, and I've seen it sort of with the fashion influencer world, is they just don't get hired. Yeah. And then they have to work for less, because at some point the brand is like, we're taking the upper hand back because we're not spending this money on you. And then all of a sudden, most of them aren't working. And so the ones that want to work are either going to have to charge less or not work. So I think that's the only way it gives, truthfully. And the same thing will happen eventually. I just think because of the virality of certain brands and certain creators, I think all of a sudden, once they have that virality, they have the upper hand, right? But I think it's always going to do this. But very interesting. I mean, authenticity through and through. Yeah. So what's next for you? I'm so excited. I'm such a fan. I love, my entire team drinks Poppi, and like everywhere I go, there's Poppi. It's really amazing.
Poppi's the official soda of the Los Angeles Lakers. So we just have like,
how insane are you pinching yourself?
So I'm so annoying. And I'm going to say, people ask me this all the time, and I think I should reframe how I answer. Usually I'm like, no, because I still got shit to do. I do need to, like, that's my whole new balance that we were kind of talking about earlier. I need to sit back and enjoy this because it's so freaking special. But also I'm like, I'm not done. Like I am dominating. We are disrupting soda. It's like this whole thing that I'm like, I'm not ready to sit back and pitch myself, but I do have to, I think.
No, I think, listen, I always say complacency is the enemy, right? Like for me, I think for serial entrepreneurs, it's clearly you have the bug, right? But I would say now, because I'm, like a couple of years older than you, what I would say is, in many ways, some of the most exciting things that happened to me in my career are a blur. And I only remember them when people interview me about them. And then I'm like, right, yes,
because it was
yes.
so big. Yeah.
And I never once stopped to recognize what was happening. And people would say it to me in the moment. Do you believe you're on a plane with so-and-so? Do you believe you're flying to Monaco with Britney Spears? Like, do you believe these things? Because in the moment, it's work, it's your job. And as much as you love it, you're like, and you're leading it. So what I would say to that and to anyone listening is, because you stop for 10 minutes to recognize what's happening, or to maybe have a glass of champagne or whatever it is, to just be like, okay, that does not mean you are resting on success. And that does not mean you're stopping tomorrow. That just means you're taking an hour to say, I can't believe this is actually happening. And that's it. And then you live in that moment for a minute and then go on to your next thing the next day. But it is important to do that. It is important to do that. Also, like, document it. You will, obviously, especially the Lakers. That'll be documented for you. But
I feel like social media also makes it easier to document. Everyone's like,
yes,
write a journal. I'm like, ugh, that's my worst.
You don't even need to. It's there.
I'm like, I'll just go back on my TikTok feed. No, I know it's true. Like, it's this new level of balance that I have to find in my life, because I've been working so much that everyone's just like, I don't know how you do it, Allison. Look, I'm a creative, and I have to allow that space to be creative. So I will take your advice.
Just try to stop even for an hour. Just recognize it and then move on to the next thing.
I love it,
but take it in. Enjoy those beautiful boys. I love that you're a boy mom.
Yes, thank you.
Next time you come here, let me know and we'll go have drinks.
I love it.
Poppi and tequila.
Love. Slay.
Thank you so much, honey. Thank you so much to Allison for being on the pod. I honestly lived for our conversation, and I really, really loved how loud and proud she is about not holding the title of CEO. Because I think as females over the last several years, we have become so obsessed with having the title of CEO, even if we don't know what it means, or even if we don't know if we want it or not. And I think that's been one of the biggest takeaways for me, having gone to so many events and sitting at so many tables with so many successful women, how over the last year or two, how many women are either stepping down and relinquishing that title, realizing they really don't want it anymore, realizing what it truly means and that that's not actually where they excel. That was a really big learning. And I also love how open she is about being young, being accepted by Gen Z, which is really hard, being adored by Gen Z. And I guess by definition, being a millennial, having 3 kids, and really not sacrificing her brand vision and being so proud of it. Anyway, loved this episode. Thank you so much for listening to Climbing in Heels. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the iHeart app, or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss a single episode this season. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Rachel Zoe and the show at Climbing in Heels Pod for the latest episodes and updates. I will talk to you soon. Mwah.
This is Ashley Iconetti from the Ben and Ashley I Almost Famous podcast. You could have lost 10 pounds already if you already started 1 month ago. So are you ready to start today? Find out if weight loss meds are right for you in just 3 minutes at tryfh.com. Tryfh.com.
Tryfh.com.
Results vary based on start weight and adherence to diet, exercise, and program goals. Data based on independent studies sponsored by Future Health. Future Health is not a healthcare services provider. Meds are prescribed at provider's discretion.
This is Radhi Devlukia from A Really Good Cry. Apothecary is a leading health and wellness brand dedicated to harnessing the power of plant medicine, formulating clean, effective herbal remedies that target the root cause of health imbalances. Their tinctures are easy to take directly into your mouth or mix into a delicious functional mocktail. I decided to try their Blue Burn formula, which uses Oregon grapefruit, a natural source of berberine that boosts metabolism and curbs sugar cravings. You can find Apothecary at Sprouts Farmers Market stores nationwide and online at Ulta.com, Amazon, and Apothecary.com. That's Apothecary with a K at apothecary.com.
Dietz & Watson's been making meats and cheeses the right way since forever. What's that mean? It means never cutting corners, ever. It means cooking, not processing. It means our Virginia brand ham that's cooked to perfection, then twice baked to layer the flavors. It takes more time, but you can taste the difference. We come to work every day to do it the right way, even if it's the hard way. Because if it's not right for us, it's not right for you. Dietz & Watson, it's a family thing since 1939.
It's tax season, and by now, I know we're all a bit tired of numbers, but here's an important one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much money in refunds the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Here's another, 20%. That's the overall increase in identity theft related to tax fraud in 2024 alone. But it's not all grim news. Here's a good number, 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, LifeLock's US-based restoration specialists will fix it, backed by another good number, the $1 Million Protection Plan. In fact, restoration is guaranteed or your money back. Don't face identity theft and financial losses alone. There's strength in numbers with LifeLock Identity Theft Protection for tax season and beyond. Join now and save up to 40% your first year. Call 1-800-LifeLock and use promo code IHEART or go to lifelock.com/iHeart for 40% off. Terms apply.